Oh, it's just you, George. Don't scare me like that, dude. You and your fake dollar bills.
So I decided to go watch this spooky, scary movie because I had nothing better to do with my life, and because everybody was talking about it on the interweb. How could I miss the newest cinematic goy slop every normie was hyping up? The Backrooms are back for the 20th time because why is it back again? Being very honest with you, as far as creepypastas go, they chose one of the least scary to make a movie out of. The Backrooms spawned out of a short 4chan post about a silly idea an anon had. This idea was as short as 2 paragraphs. The creepypasta, if you could even call it that, wasn't that interesting and was known mostly on the far corners of the internet. It rising to the collective consciousness of the population, aka becoming known to the normie public, was all due to YouTuber Kane Pixel's adaptation of the post in video format. He created a found footage style horror flick. What was impressive about this at the time was that it was all done in CGI, Blender to be more precise, I think, and made to look extremely realistic through a combination of realistic camera tracking with all the shakes and jitters of real handheld camera footage and the deliberate enshittification of the footage through filters and a clever little technique which I'll reveal later. The result was footage that was almost indistinguishable from reality, entirely photorealistic. And that's all well and all. At first it was an interesting thing, but like seemingly all creepypasta, the more developed it became, the more retarded it became. What was a simple and extremely vague idea created to entice the reader's imagination went on to be fleshed out more and more by Kane Pixels, and with that, it started to deviate into his personal take on the whole thing and gradually became his personal art project instead of a creepypasta. Meanwhile, the masses of idiots on the internet, trying to cash in on the Backrooms craze he created, decided to employ their own shitty spins on the idea, adding levels to it. And each level became more and more ridiculous and nonsensical. And god, the amount of garbage Backrooms indie games on Steam made by people who wanted to join in on the trend to make quick and easy cash is scarier than any movie on this subject could ever be. In short, the Backrooms became really fucking stupid, much like the SCP Foundation. So I knew this movie was gonna be a continuation of that, just another flick where Kane's personal Backrooms headcanon took precedence over the essence of creepy liminal spaces. This movie is more like his last Backrooms video, affected by mountains of his personal artsy-fartsy takes on the subject, and is much worse than his first video on it. And since A24 is involved, you can multiply the pretentiousness, the unscary artsy-fartsiness by 10, and then you get this movie. A shitty psychological spin, and psychological in the worst sense of the word. I've gone through this in the Silent Hill horror analysis video, with the Backrooms pretty much being left as set dressing. The Backrooms takes a back seat. The creepy liminal space is not the focus, but instead the monsters and the psychology of the main characters are. The movie stars this guy, who I won't even try pronouncing the name of. A black dude, which means something to anyone with a shred of pattern recognition. The other main character is a woman, of course, and guess who dies first? And here come the spoilers. The one who dies first is the only white dude, of course. Is this the end of the world? No, but it once again shows that the woke propaganda isn't dead, but merely toned down for the time being. A24 movies have always been woke, with female protagonists often not only being the sole survivors of the horror, but also vindicated within said horror, where everybody else is subversively framed as the villains, or at least bad people. The most disgusting example of this, in my opinion, was The Witch, a movie that makes a gross mockery of Christianity, the family unit and gender dynamics, praising Satanism as the liberator of the poor victim, the daughter who didn't do nothing wrong, even though she did. But who cares cares about objectivity when the goal is to propagandize? So it's no surprise the two main characters are a black man and a woman, and the first victim of the Backrooms is a white guy played like an unlikable jackass, to the surprise of no one who notices the most basic stuff. The programming must be present in every level after all. If you think I'm paranoid, you should stop pretending to have media literacy and just admit that buzzword is nothing but a weapon to obfuscate and shut down discussions on these types of propaganda, you fucking worm. Interracial couples are also featured, the forced jackass white dude called Robert and this Southeast Asian chick are together, and another couple which is only portrayed through roleplay between Clark, the black guy protagonist, and Mary, the female therapist. Regardless of it being roleplay, it's supposed to get you used to this dynamic. It's NLP on display. So the movie opens up with the typical found footage segment where some random person is chased by a monster in the Backrooms. Pretty basic stuff in this universe, but it makes no effort at all to hide how supervised this whole thing is. It's like an ongoing science experiment. There are scientists from a former MRI machine producing company called Async constantly observing the Backrooms through installed surveillance cameras. This ties in with Kane's prior videos, I guess. And honestly, it's such shit. It takes away a large part of the potential fear of the unknown. Sure, it's scary and unknown to the in-universe victims, but to the audience, it's a giant comfort to know everything is being surveilled by an organization. It's just the lore of the Kane Pixels Backrooms universe. I do it like this. I either make said organization already extinct, all the crew involved, the only people on Earth who have a clue what this is, ended up dying or going missing, which would render the Backrooms dimension completely out of control. There would be no one left with a clue, or I'd have it be a naturally occurring anomaly that's only now happening to the world, and nobody has done any research on it yet. The fact these researchers are instead still alive and overseeing this whole situation is lame and gay for a horror story. Another thing that degrades the concept is the fact that in this movie you can come and go between dimensions as you please. The Backrooms entrance is always open in the same spot, in the basement level of the retail store Clark works at. The gateway never closes either. I thought it would at first, trapping him inside, but it never does, which turns the events of the movie completely avoidable, if not for the typical stupidity required of characters in a horror movie, who rarely ever have any common sense. The plot requires characters to be stupid and dense. For instance, when Clark attempts to describe the Backrooms dimension he found in the store, he's utterly unable to put into words what he wanted to describe. It would be a simple task, dude. Doctor, I was in the basement at the retail store, and I shit you not, this is gonna sound crazy, but one of the walls there is fake. You can walk through it as if it were a hologram, and behind it is this weird complex of abandoned rooms. I'm not crazy and I can show you in person. End quote. It's that simple. She could dismiss this as mere delusion, but the way he unhingedly failed to explain something as simple as this ended up making him seem even crazier. Then afterwards, he brings the young couple I mentioned, Robert and the Asian chick, Catherine, with him, and they venture into the Backrooms. They bring a shit ton of supplies, food, rope, a map, etc. But no basic survival tools like a knife somehow. The result? They tie a safety rope on Robert so he can explore beyond a tilted slope. He gets attacked by a monster down there, escapes back up, but due to Clark's stupidity, they can't untie the rope fast enough and the monster pulls Robert back down and kills him. It's these things that completely break my immersion in a horror movie because I know this is forced in order to get the plot going. After this turning point, the plot takes a nosedive. Predictably, as simply being a black man doesn't provide enough victimhood points to Clark, he turns out to be a bad guy. Earlier, he is framed as an emotionally unhinged, perhaps even abusive husband in the hacking therapy session he has with Mary, because you just need to do therapy, dude. Let it permeate your mind through repeated exposure to it in these wastes of time called movies. There's definitely something wrong with most people, oh yeah, and we just conveniently realized that collectively in recent years. Sure, it sounds legit. Clark then decides to stay in the backrooms, a turn of events that was foreshadowed earlier. Predictably as well, the Foyd therapist now decides to go after Clark after she receives a call from him, which weirded her out. The structure of this movie is very predictable if you've watched enough horror media. She goes after him in there and finds him, but he's completely off his rocker now and chokes her out. It's never explained why he goes nuts. I would say that getting two young people killed broke him, but he never even mentions them again, so that probably has nothing to do with it. He holds her hostage and they have an unhinged conversation at a dining table, Resident Evil 7 style, but she manages to convince Clark that he's just a bad man and he did everything wrong in his life. His wife was right for leaving him just cause he be black and shit. Yo, this movie be racist. And that he should stay in the back rooms forever. An unexpectedly sincere moment from this movie. That actually surprised me, to think it would reveal what therapists really think of their patients when they're not paying them. But he is a black man and she's a woman. The toxic masculinity still applies. Within the lefty victimhood hierarchy, I think women take priority over black men. Well, they can live with it. They accepted these terms. Don't think for a second this applies to you if you're just an apolitical or right-wing woman though. These rules only apply within their cult. Anyone who's not in the cult is disposable. But what about the Asian chick? Wasn't she killed too? Yes, she was killed, and it was all because of her stupid boyfriend who decided to stupidly follow this increasingly unhinged black man into another dimension. So we can blame him for that, of course. There's no contradiction. So it's revealed that within the back rooms there's a reflection of sorts of everything that exists in the real world. Some objects are literally inverted, and the people who are reflected have these monstrously uncanny appearances. One such reflection is that of Clark. It's the monster who's been chasing and killing everyone so far. He doesn't kill real Clark, which is why he was able to hang around inside the back rooms for so long. Until now. After the Foyd convinces Clark that he should just rot in the back rooms, the Clark monster appears. It's just a distorted version of Clark with the pirate attire he used to record TV ads in the real world with.
Gonna kill you and I'll keep killing you and I'll never, cause you're gonna be dead.
It bites his shoulder off and kills him, and Mary tries to escape. She runs through some backrooms version of real-world locations, and the worst scene in the movie happens. This beautiful and strong woman, stronger than any man ever, manages to beat this 7 feet 7 inches tall giant who's been completely eviscerating people throughout the movie by pushing his head a little and beating him over the head a few times with a little piece of concrete she pulled out of her pocket. Imagine now you're watching Alien, and after he killed everybody effortlessly, Ripley simply knocks its head with a stone a bunch of times, and that defeats it. That's what happened here. She's then found by the science team in hazmat suits. They blast gas on her face. She's then dragged through the same doorway we saw in Kane Pixel's video from a while ago, the thing they use to open up the doorway between dimensions. Then one of the scientists of this group, that's probably at this point using the MRI machine stuff as a front to cover up their real purpose, comes up to her to ask her questions. And it seems like he feels at least some guilt over all this. He explains they have no idea what the back rooms are, and they are still trying to figure out how to stop these portals from popping up in the world. Then the movie ends with a weird sequence of backrooms reflections of places we've seen throughout the movie's real world, and lastly we see a reflection of the Foyd therapist herself with her face all distorted. What? Now let's set aside all the little details, Easter eggs, blah blah blah, all the artsy-fartsy shit they sprinkled throughout the movie at various points. After all, this movie is very pretentious and expects you to be autistic enough to dig through its secrets as if it were an ARG. But let's focus instead on the important stuff. Is this movie anything special? No. The only things to be scared of are the monsters and weird deformed people inside the back rooms. Almost all of them are totally harmless. The back rooms themselves, although uncanny, are not scary because the movie doesn't frame it as something scary. The characters can enter and leave whenever they please. It doesn't get scarier the deeper they go.
Aside from that place with the piles of dirty clothes, there's not enough build-up before actually stepping into the back rooms.
In fact, the very first sequence in the movie takes place in the back room, so you know what to expect throughout the rest of the entire fucking movie. There's barely any soundscape, so the atmosphere in there is weak. You know what the scariest thing about it is? The fucking blue tape outline around the portal.
The way it looks crooked looks more wrong than anything inside the back rooms.
That's it. The back rooms themselves, aesthetically speaking, were not scary to begin with. The prospect of being stuck in there forever was. But in this movie, as I said, you can enter and leave as you please, and there are other exits you can eventually find, and real people to help you if they can find you. It's all very tame, so the scare factor rests on the monster's shoulders. Is the monster scary? Not very. At first, when the movie only shows you his silhouettes in the distance, sure. You can see a tall, hulking figure, and that's creepy to an extent, but the reveal is extremely disappointing. To see the big scary monster was just...
The demo man from Team Fortress 2 was very disappointing.
I have other nitpicks, like the way it stalks people is very loud and bombastic, crashing walls and making noise. I'd much rather have something more subtle. The other monsters, the distorted people, are all revealed very quick to be completely harmless.
The threat of the only monster that actually kills people was diffused very quickly.
The other problem is the tiresome way in which they used the back rooms as basically Silent Hill to explore the psychological disturbances of the main characters. I want this stupid fucking trope to die now. It's boring, it's overused, there's no point in doing this when you don't provide enough time and you don't put enough effort into making relatable characters to the audience. When something as half-assed as this is the first priority in the story instead of the back rooms themselves, you've made a giant mistake.
But this is A24 and Kane Pixels, who became more and more artsy-fartsy over the years. Of course this would be the outcome.
The love for the horror either died off or was never the intention in the first place, and so this movie is more like a therapy session for the characters rather than a horror movie. What I wanted from this movie was the investigation of a mystery. I would have put the backrooms reveal only in the second half and spent the first half building up to it. The movie started off on the right foot in that regard when Clark experiences a bunch of strangeness in the retail store he was made to live in. Most horror movies have a climax, a moment where there's a dramatic spike in the horror unlike anything that came before.
In the Blair Witch, it was the dilapidated house segment.
In the Borderlands, it was when they enter that certain crawl space. In Lake Mungo, it's that creepy scene in the dark with the figure approaching. I'm sure you can think of more examples. This movie had nothing of the sort. There was the giant pirate monster chase, sure, but that was like the third time he had done that in the movie at that point. To me, the backrooms itself should have occupied that slot. You can't make much of it anyway because there's nothing in there, dude. It's just an empty dimension full of hallways and rooms with random furniture strewn about. You can't make walking around in awe interesting for more than 5 minutes, and it's why these Silent Hill movies suck. Same with the backrooms, but it's instead the perfect setting for the climax where everything goes to shit for the MC and it's all hopeless. This has been done before. The original backrooms, gentlemen, were called The Black Lodge from Twin Peaks. That show spends most of its second season building up to this place. The mysteries in the real world surround it. The gossip and legends paint it as this horrible place you're absolutely fucked if you step into. And it's all very effective. Then only in the very last episode do we step inside, and because of all that prior build-up, we can't help it. We're very apprehensive, and even though it's not as distorted as, say, an Otherworld from Silent Hill, it's still so otherworldly different from anything that came before. There's that feeling of, well, now we're fucked at the end of it. It could have been done this way, or as a survival horror if the character got stuck in the backrooms as he should have, exploring the empty, creepy halls, looking for a way out, while things off in the distance stalk the character would have been much better. The way this movie was structured, it felt like it was supposed to be the sequel, Backrooms 2, but how natural and presupposed these very backrooms were. And in a way, it is a sequel. The prequels are all in Kane Pixel's YouTube channel. The problem is, these prequels all suffer from the same issue. They're a neat concept to explore as found footage. It looked neat and impressive considering the CGI work, but that's it. There was never proper structuring. No proper horror was ever built. And so we end up with this movie, just an extension of what we'd already seen more than enough of. There's nothing groundbreaking here, folks. I fully expect this to spawn yet another wave of ridiculous backrooms slop content on the internet. And then what next? What other low-hanging fruit are they gonna explore? Will they make a movie about the SCP Foundation? Or maybe a movie about Ted the Caver? A mockumentary on Alex from Tennessee? Creativity is so fucking dead, it's time to start scavenging for ideas in the deepest crevices of the internet, I guess. For old stuff people cared for decades ago. Get the fuck out of here, man. Things like this are neat as a little art project, but not as a fully fledged product full of padding to fill up all the gaps needed for these producers to be able to sell it to you for a price. The gaps in this case were filled with that whole psychological bullcrap melodrama. So is this movie worth watching? If you're a fan of the whole Backrooms verse Kane Pixels created, then sure. For you, it's probably worth it. But on its own, it's a very mid horror film. They're trying to milk an anorexic cow here, dude. Liminal spaces have also been done better than this. The eerie pictures of places where you'd expect people to be in, except there's only darkness in the distance, do a better job of showing the scary part of this concept than the Backrooms ever did. Also, there's something about witnessing the reactions, the gasps, the pants of people in these places that takes away from the horror for some reason, which is why I don't like when movies like this one result in walking simulators in video format. Oh, and to wrap it up with something I almost forgot. This shit is so bottom of the barrel that even I, a completely random nobody, can make a Backrooms style video. Photorealistic and everything. It's very easy to assemble in Blender, and you don't even need to be strict with quality because the secret I told you earlier that I would reveal to make it photorealistic also hides imperfections in your scene. The secret technique, the secret filter you can apply to your path trace renders to make them more photorealistic aside from the jittery camera tracking is very silly. Just point your cell phone camera or whatever camera you have at your disposal at your computer screen and record the video you rendered in Blender. That's gonna make it look like it was shot by a real camera and make it considerably more photorealistic. It'll take care of adding all the imperfections you would ever need to make it look like a real recording. Then just adjust the colors, brightness, and add whatever effects you want later in editing to make it less obvious what you did. That's it. It's so whatever.
But you know how artists are. They don't want you to know their tricks, so almost no one was willing to tell how to do this back then.
Anyway, hello chuds.
You might have noticed my voice sounds a little different today.
It is because I caught a cold. My throat is fucking killing me, and that's why I haven't streamed Amnesia the Bunker yet. I'm hoping this will go away quickly. I probably made the situation worse by yapping for 20 something minutes. But yeah, take it easy everybody. I'll see you soon.